Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for joining us today. This is Joe with the Local Search Association, and I'd like to welcome all of you to LSA's webinar series. Today's webinar is titled Call Tracking for Local Search, What Every Marketer Should Know, and will be brought to you by our guest presenters Blair and Angelo from Ifbyphone. With that, let's get started. Over to you, Blair.
Thanks, Joe. Good afternoon, everybody. Good morning or good evening, depending on where you are. My name is Blair, and I'm with Ifbyphone. And before we start the webinar, I wanted to let you know that if you plan on tweeting about the webinar, please use the hashtag call tracking. So let's go ahead and get started. Before we do, though, I want to give you just a very brief overview about who Ifbyphone is, if you're not familiar with us. We're a cloud-based software company based in Chicago. We're the leader in voice-based marketing automation, and we'll explain a little bit more about what that is later on in the webinar. But what you really need to know is that our software helps marketers and agencies track, route, manage phone leads from any marketing source, including search. And we've got around 4,000 active customers in 35 or so industries right now. So what I want to begin with today is the idea that search is going mobile and that calls are the new clicks. So for the past decade, those of us who have been engaged in search marketing have really been focused on clicks, optimizing and analyzing clicks from both organic and paid search. And that's really what you should have been doing, but right now there's a movement going on that's making calls the new clicks, where phone calls, inbound calls, which have previously been ignored by most search marketers, are really the metric you most need to track, analyze, and optimize. And the reason why, in part, is because of smartphones. You all know what smartphones are, of course, your iPhone, your Galaxy. It's what pairs together the internet and also search with the ability to make calls from the same device. So smartphone adoption is going through the roof. There will be 276 million smartphones in use by the year 2017, and 92% of all mobile devices are smartphones. You can see some of the numbers there, but you don't really need those numbers to know that everyone today has a smartphone. I mean, do you know anyone who doesn't? Just need to go to an airport or ride the bus or the subway during rush hour, and everyone is on their phone. Everyone has their phone with them within arm's reach pretty much at all times these days. So why is that important to search marketing? Because more smartphones means more mobile and local searches. Right now, according to Google, 25% of searches took place on mobile devices in 2013 last year, but that number of mobile search is supposed to surpass desktop search by next year. So by next year, there'll be more searches on smartphones and mobile devices than there will be on desktops. And 50% of all mobile searches have local intent, according to Google. So 50% of all searches, mobile searches, are people looking for services, industries, goods in the local market near them. So what does that mean? Well, more mobile searches means more inbound calls. Here's some data by an analyst firm, BI Kelsey, that shows, you see that the green line going upward, that's the number of phone calls from mobile search. So 30 billion calls were made from mobile search last year in 2013, and that number is supposed to grow up to 73 billion by 2018. That's a huge spike in inbound calls, solely from mobile search. Now, why is that happening? Well, most of us are familiar with click-to-call, but if you're not, it's basically the ability on your phone to either press a phone number or press a call button and trigger an immediate call to that number. So if you're doing mobile ads in search, you know that the call button in Google, but even on your landing pages, if you have a phone number, when people tap that number, it triggers an immediate call to your business. Google says that 70% of all mobile searchers have used the click button, and that 57% of all mobile searches result in a phone call. So again, calls are the new clicks. Look at the image on the right. You'll see the old idea of filling out a web form isn't as applicable in mobile search as it is on desktop search, because really it's difficult and time-consuming and cumbersome for somebody to fill out a form as is to just touch one button and trigger a call. So again, calls are the new clicks. So Mobile searches also have high purchasing intent. Now what that means is that people who are searching for your business on their phones are often someone who is ready to make some kind of purchase. Here's a statistic from Google that says that 55% of purchase-related conversions occur within 1 hour of mobile searches. 63% of mobile search-triggered actions occur within 1 hour of the initial search. So people are not only looking for your business on their phones, but when they do find you, they're following up quickly. So these are valuable leads to gather. So here's a stat from Google, or some stats from Google that I think are really interesting. Basically, it's the percentage of people who call from search by task and industry. So at the bottom, you can see the different industries: restaurant, finance, auto, local, travel, retail, and technology, and then why people will call from search, from those particular industries. So I highlighted 2 of them, which I thought were most interesting. So a lot of people do marketing on Google in order to get people to make an appointment or a reservation, depending on what kind of business you're running. And look at those percentages of people who will call to do that, especially the local ones, 73%. Or even more important, make a purchase over the phone, which is, obviously the end goal of all marketing is to get that purchase. Look at those percentages of people who will be calling. And think about, if you're not tracking those calls, what your metrics are missing, what that blind spot is. And we're going to go into that a little bit more later on in the presentation. So marketers are starting to realize the value of calls. So advertisers spend billions annually to connect with consumers over the phone. So $64.6 billion are spent in the U.S. to drive phone calls. That's what marketers are spending. And $23.4 billion of that is local. It's local marketing. That includes yellow pages, newspaper, radio, and of course directories and search. So marketers are spending a ton of money to drive calls. They need to be able to track and manage those calls. So that's really what the critical blind spot we want to talk to you today is all about. The first part is that marketers don't know what sources make the phone ring. So if you can attribute sales opportunities, revenue, appointments, whatever your end goal is in your search marketing, to the right source, to the right keywords, to the right Google ads or Bing ads, how do you know if your search marketing is actually working? And if you don't know if it's working, how do you optimize it to do better? And how do you prove either to your clients if you're an agency or to your own executive team or your CMO how your search marketing is impacting the business? If you don't track phone calls, you just can't do it accurately. And also, marketing and sales teams can't control how inbound calls are routed, scored, and managed. So it's just as important if you know where the call comes from, but be able to control where it goes and how to score it. And the same things that you would do with the web conversion, you need to be able to do with the call conversion. And we're going to explain a little bit later how that works. So I'm going to hand it off to my partner Angelo to go into a little bit more about the importance and how to track inbound calls from your local search. Angelo.
Thanks, Blair. And hello, everybody. Hope you're doing well. Blair did a great job of covering all the things that surround the phone and why they're important to marketers. We're going to talk about the actual technology you would use to track your phone calls and how that sort of starts. So the first thing here that we're going to look at is all the different mediums or sources that you can track calls from. So an example here on the side of the screen, you'll see obviously SEO and paid search from different search engines. Also offline sources like television, radio, billboard ads, print, and then other web-based sources as well, social media, email, content, display advertising, anything that you can put a phone number on, you can track and understand what drove that person to call your business. And more importantly, track back to the exact source, so not just the medium, but we'll dive a little deeper and show you some more specifics about what actual information you get. First, basically, though, we'll just go through the sort of life cycle of a call tracking visitor, specifically from a search engine. They obviously go to a google.com or a different search engine and they type in a search term. They see the search engine results page and they will either make one of two choices. They'll either click to dial if they're on mobile, or they'll click the actual link to come to your website to view more information about your page, at which point there'll be a phone number there as well. Using call tracking technology, you'll capture the information that drove them to the site and then be able to route them properly as well. Calls and keywords, along with ads, campaigns, any other information we can capture from the web source will be reported on, and then you can use that information to optimize your advertising down the road. An important thing to note is the ability to use both toll-free or local phone numbers. So obviously for local search purposes and for geo-targeted campaigns and paid search, you want to have that feel of a local business or a localized location for that specific business. One of our customers here in the healthcare space saw a call conversion increase of about 200% simply by switching to local phone numbers on their pages. And you can see here Ifbyphone also offers Canadian and True 800 numbers as well.
Right. So when you think about call tracking and putting numbers on your pages, some people are reluctant because they think, well, it's not going to be. They don't have the option to make it a local phone number. But call tracking providers do provide that option, and we recommend, if you're going with call tracking, to use that for local search, because across the board we've seen all our customers, when they do A/B tests between 800 numbers and local phone numbers, that having that local phone number is very important to driving a conversion.
Another thing that's important, excuse me, is to have this information about phone leads, phone conversions in real time. So some examples on the screen. We'll talk a little bit more about other ways to use the data, but you're able to optimize in real time by looking at how these calls are coming into the business, and you can cut wasted spend by eliminating what doesn't work. So if you're running a series of campaigns and you can look at halfway through the day it's not generating any calls, but it's cost you a lot of money, you can pause it and reevaluate and make some tweaks and then start it back up again to make sure that you're actually getting that desired conversion action. And then again, optimize bids and budgets for specific times of days when you notice that there's peak traffic and peak spikes in call conversions. All that stuff needs to be available in real time for you to be able to do that.
Yeah, so call tracking isn't just about generating reports on the sources of the call, although that's obviously very important and critical. You can also use it to see data from all around the call, so including the times of day and the hours when calls are being driven. So if your local marketing or your local search is driving calls, most of the calls on a certain day, perhaps you don't want to spend money on other days to drive calls, or you want to optimize or spend more to make sure you're getting the right coverage on the days and times when the calls are most prevalent. So reports from call tracking providers like Ifbyphone give you that knowledge that you can use to optimize your marketing beyond just which keywords and ads are working for you.
And just like Blair said about the time series stuff, being able to look at the locations that are driving phone calls, geographic locations that are driving the most phone calls based on your target markets are available in real time as well. The other thing to consider is, and this is something that people are doing all the time, is it running A/B tests. If you're, again, not tracking phone calls, you're not going to be able to understand what is most often going to be the most important conversion in your A/B test. You'll understand how many forms are filled out in one variation versus another, but if people are calling you, you're not going to know which variation of the page is driving them to call unless you're using call tracking numbers, which would directly affect your decision on which variation of the page to select moving forward.
Yeah, in this particular example, we selected Montway is a joint customer of ours and an agency known as Wider Funnel, and they basically, by optimizing their web pages and using our call tracking numbers to see which variations are driving the most calls, they were able to generate an astounding extra $1 million in revenue for this particular customer in just 7 months. So just by tweaking your landing pages, you can have a tremendous upside to your business, but you need to be able to include call tracking and that call conversion in your A/B metrics. And obviously this is an example of landing pages, but the same thing is true for your ads and any other marketing you do. When you want to test what's working and what isn't, you need to be able to include the phone call, that critical call conversion, as part of your metrics.
So another important piece of call tracking is integrating the call tracking data into the applications that you use daily as a marketer. And so here's some examples of the integrations that we have and are fairly common with other call tracking providers as well. Obviously, you have Google Analytics, in this case both Classic and Universal Analytics, Salesforce CRM, the three larger bid management providers, Optimizely A/B testing platform, and HubSpot, which is a traditional marketing automation tool. Most of you are probably familiar with all these, and we'll touch on some of them in a little more detail. The first thing here is Universal Analytics, or Google Analytics, as you guys would know. And I think the important thing here to notice is that you're going to be able to see your phone call data tied to the Google tracking information that's already inside of Google Analytics interface. It's sort of like, it looks like a native metric. It looks like something that belongs inside of analytics. And that's important when you're trying to sort of cut and slice the data up many different ways so that you can get to the end result of what you're trying to understand about your web visitors. We do this by tying the call to the unique tracking information that Google gives every web visitor when they hit your site. And then we fire an event so that you're able to import that event into something like Google AdWords as a paid search conversion as well, if you're talking about paid search. Another thing to look for here is CRM integration. So in this case, we're talking about Salesforce. But again, getting the information into where your sales staff or your marketing team understands your business, your revenue, is hugely important. To understand what web and call conversions are coming in, how many of those leads were good enough quality to make it through to the sales funnel. Continue to optimize your campaign based on that lead gen opportunity generation piece, but then also look at the return on investment from accounts or revenue that are generated by these different campaigns, not just looking at raw leads.
Yeah, so for most, I mean, think about what the end result of your campaign is supposed to be. I mean, most people don't advertise just to generate the call. They advertise to generate what happens after the call. So whether it's an appointment or a sales opportunity if you're a technology company like we are, or a sale over the phone. So you need to, Ifbyphone can tie in the call tracking data from your Google search, your Bing search, or any of your marketing really into your CRM, and then be able to follow those specific leads from their marketing source all the way through your sales funnel, whatever that may be. So at the end, you're able to not just optimize marketing campaigns and search campaigns based on total conversions, but the next step, the really important part, the sales, the opportunities, the things that you're trying to get from your marketing, you can then optimize on what's driving those. So for example, if you have an ad campaign that drives 1,000 calls a week, but only 1 or 2 of those calls is actually converting into an appointment or into revenue, that might not be what you want to continue. You might want to tweak that, or discontinue that campaign towards something that's driving more of the end result of revenue and accounts that you're looking for. So you can do that using integration with call tracking to a CRM system like Salesforce here.
One of the big ones for call tracking specifically with local search and paid search is obviously going to be bid management. Again, if you're looking at conversions as a way to optimize your bids in real time or daily based on the amount of conversions, and you definitely want to be able to include phone calls into that equation when you're adjusting your bids. As I mentioned before, we integrate with the larger 3, the Marin, Kensho, and Acquisio bid management platforms. And again, it's going to give you call data within these interfaces the same way that you have your regular click data and your regular conversion data from Google and your other publisher accounts. But it's, again, going to be phone calls from all these different campaigns tied to the individual click that drove the phone call, so that you can then use the same bid adjustment rules that you use today to optimize with the complete picture of your conversions from these different campaigns.
Right. If you're an agency, you're almost certainly familiar with what bid management is, especially if you have a lot of clients and you need to. It's a way to automate and optimize search campaigns across all your search engines. So, in the past, without the call tracking data, you were basically just optimizing on incomplete data just on web conversions. But now you can also include call conversions, and for some businesses, those are the most important conversions to optimize on. So this is a way to, call tracking isn't just a way to benefit your marketing, but it also is a way to complete some of the other marketing applications like your Google Analytics, like your CRM, like your bid management, marketing automation, that have those holes because they don't work with phone calls.
And again, just to recap some of the other benefits of call tracking, understanding exactly the marketing source that makes the phone ring, and as Blair mentioned, turning into revenue. So again, sometimes the conversion itself is enough. A lot of the times you want to know more, not just the fact that the phone rang, but then that phone call turned into revenue or an appointment or whatever that end desired action is for your business. Saving money from the marketer standpoint is huge with call tracking. By being able to eliminate the stuff that's not turning into phone calls and or web forms quickly to make sure that you're not leaving it out there to just burn your budget away. And again, taking into account phone leads along with every other type of lead that you're tracking in today, web forms and direct referrals and stuff like that, you're going to be able to correctly attribute your marketing efforts to the organization that you're either as an agency or as a direct marketer for a specific company, and actually prove your value or the marketing effort value to the stakeholders.
Right, and for me, that's the most important part, is be able to, it's the proof that I have that I can go to my CMO or my CEO, or for agencies out there, your clients, and justify and prove the value of what it is you're doing. So if I wanted to, for example, increase my spend in search marketing, my manager would want to see proof that what we're doing is working and that there'll be a real ROI from that. And with call tracking, you're able to help provide that missing piece of data that you otherwise would not have. So if you don't have it, you're almost certainly underselling the value of what it is that your marketing is providing. And we've got a great example here from our own PPC. So I mentioned a little bit about about what I do to justify increasing marketing spend in certain areas. But we do our own Google and Bing search marketing. And here's an example of a study we did from our own campaigns, where basically, if we just looked at web conversions, 3.2% of our visitors were filling out a form. Now, as a marketer, depending on what your business is, 3.2% conversion rate might not be very good, and you might start to freak out and think that you're wasting money on that particular campaign. But then we looked at how those pages were also driving phone calls, and then we saw another 5.3% were actually calling us. So almost double the people who were filling out forms were calling, and when you add those two numbers together, that 8.5% combined conversion rate isn't that bad. It's actually pretty good for our industry. So we were able to show not only that what we're doing is working, but that we don't have to, pump on the brakes, stop what we're doing, and make some drastic changes to what's already working. Now, this is another example of that. Basically, this is putting some numbers, some account numbers, lead numbers, and revenue numbers to show you the real impact of what those last numbers showed you. Is basically that if you only were tracking the top line, the web forms, look at what you'd be missing in that middle line, the inbound calls. You'd be missing, a ton of leads, a ton of deals, and quite a bit of revenue that you would not be able to attribute back to your search marketing, and that is a major, major deal. If you have metrics that, as a marketer, you need to hit, or if you're trying to prove to your clients the value of your marketing.
And so, as Blair just went over again, to sort of get there, we talked about the call tracking piece, and tracking is a very good first step in understanding how your phone is interacting with your business and your lead flow and your marketing, but also understanding and controlling how those calls are being scored and routed is going to be that much better. And if we jump to the next slide here, we'll start talking about not every call that your business gets is going to be a high-quality sales lead. You probably understand this today. You're going to get calls for several different reasons. Service, short calls, there are obviously going to be some high-quality sales or lead calls, and then you will have a percentage of people who misdial. This is a stat here from BIA Kelsey as well, showing this mix here on this screen from 2013.
Right. If you think about it, obviously as marketers we know that not every lead that comes in either through the phone or over the web is going to convert to an opportunity or to revenue. But so with web forms, you have the issue, you can score those in a wide variety of ways, but people don't understand that you can also do the same thing for phone calls using an IVR.
Yeah, and so with our IVR, with interactive voice response, you have the ability to take a few extra steps before putting that person in touch with a live human being to determine what they're actually after. If it's somebody looking for directions, you don't have to waste your salesperson's time with giving that person directions. You can handle their inquiry more efficiently. And if they are looking to talk to a salesperson, then you can get more information from them about what specifically they're after to make sure they're getting sent to the right rep every time and as quickly as possible, so that there's a lot less discovery taking place on that initial phone call between the rep and the caller, and it's getting right down to business to helping them, which increases your chances of converting them into an actual sale.
Right. So an IVR, I mean, you're probably familiar with one, but if you don't know what an IVR is, think of it when you call your bank. Really simple IVR is press 1 for sales, press 2 for support, press 3 for HR, something like that. But it can really be as elaborate as you want based on what your business model is. So we have a lot of customers who generate leads through search who just have a simple IVR where it's press 1 to make an appointment, press 2 for all other inquiries. That way you can separate that call. So the press 1 goes to the call center or the sales staff, while the press 2 might go to the receptionist at the front desk, or to HR, or to support, or to some other group where you're not wasting your call center or your sales rep's time on calls that aren't sales focused. But you can also, as Angela said, have much more elaborate questions. So if you're an insurance company, or if you're financial services, for example, and you want to qualify a caller to see if they're ready to speak to a rep, or if they apply for some special promotion you're doing, you can use an IVR to do that. So you're not just sending calls, dumping them directly into the laps of your sales reps and wasting their time with calls that shouldn't be going to them.
Another thing for after the call, and sort of again to help the marketer and the sales folks understand, is our keyword spotting technology. So this is actually going to listen to the conversations between your caller and agents, and then work through a list of metrics that contain keywords that you're looking to identify on a call to identify a positive or negative call, a good or bad call for your business. Things like, are your sales reps following the approved scripts, using the words that are in those approved scripts? Are you getting converting keywords from specific campaigns or from specific actions? So again, if you're looking to book appointments or reservations, you would look for those types of keywords and score appropriately that call to make sure that you understood that that was a good call.
Right. So keyword spotting is a new idea for a lot of marketers out there, but the technology, what it does is it will go back and monitor conversations and look for actual words that were spoken either by the call center agent or by the caller, and then score the call based on the presence of those words and by who said them. So for example, if you're a company like an insurance company that has a high volume of inbound calls, as a marketer, you just can't listen to those or even listen to the recordings. You don't have time to do that to judge the quality of a call. Or if you're an agency, you probably don't have access to what happens once you drive a call to a client. But this is a way where you can still score and monitor the value of the calls. So for example, perhaps the word is appointment. You want to see if the word appointment was spoken by the caller, the call gets a certain score, or the word buy, or the word pricing, or if you have a promotion that the person mentions, then all of a sudden you can tell that that call was a quality call as opposed to a lower quality call, and then you can prove that your marketing is driving these high value calls. And you don't have to waste your time manually going through call recordings or any other way you would to judge the call. So it really is a cool technology for those of you who are probably not familiar with it.
And then again, most call tracking providers will offer at least a couple of additional ways to route calls. And again, it can vary based on your business. So again, top performing agents first. If you know you have more seasoned or senior reps taking phone calls, and you want to make sure that no matter what, they are the first one up to get that new inbound call, that new lead above all else, then you can absolutely select that routing method within our system. You can route based on a schedule or the location of the caller. So again, if you want to route to different places based on your business hours, that's something easily configurable in our interface. or you can send them to a specific location based on where they're calling from. You can route by other marketing source information, so what domain they called from, what keyword they searched, what campaign drove them. You can make sure that if it's a specific product campaign for one of many products that you may offer, that they get to the specialist or the group that specializes in selling that product. And you can also ensure that every call gets answered by making sure that every agent that's available, that's open, that's ready to go on that day is getting their phone to ring whenever an inbound call comes in. And then the first one that answers it is the one who gets it, just to ensure that every call that's inbound to your business gets treated appropriately. And you can also route to agents that are working from anywhere. They don't need to be in the office. They can work from home. They could be out in the field on a cell phone. They could be using a soft phone like a Skype phone. All of these options are available through call tracking technology.
Yeah, what I like about this is that it's the idea that marketers they spend a lot of money and effort and resources to generate these leads for sales to follow up on, but then we don't really have any control about who gets those leads. And oftentimes, the ultimate value of a lead is whether or not it converts to an opportunity or an appointment or to revenue, and we don't have a lot of control over that. That's in the salesperson's hands. But this way, if you have certain sales reps who have proven to convert more business than others, you can send a higher percentage of calls to those reps first, or just let them have first dibs on calls. A lot of the time, it's the rep. A good rep can make all the difference between a good marketing campaign and a poorly performing one. And routing calls to the right places, to the right rep, to the right store is one of those ways you can help optimize the value of the leads you're paying so much to drive. So this stat I find interesting. When we're talking about mobile calls, when we're talking about mobile search, 55% of shoppers use smartphones to find stores, and 40% of retail sales are research online, buy offline, in-store, or over the phone. So, people are using their phones to find stores. So when they call, if they see your search ad and they click the call button, they want to be sent to that closest store to where they are. Now, that can be tricky if that person's making a mobile call, because just because their phone number might have an area code in Dallas, it doesn't mean they could be making that call from downtown Chicago. And how are you able to know that you want to be able to send that call to the closest store to where that person is at the time? So the way to do that is through a technology called geolocation. It's a way to triangulate that caller's exact location using cell phone triangulation, and then automatically route the call to the closest store, office location, or sales agent in the area. So again, you want to get that call to the best possible person right away, and geolocation is one way to do that. So transforming web leads into instant phone leads. The idea that you're saying, okay, well, we do get some calls, but we also get most of our leads are coming in through web forms. Perfectly fine. A lot of businesses have that. However, in most business models, the faster you respond to a web form request, the more likely you are to win that business. So think about somebody who's searching for, again, insurance and are filling out, or a lawyer, or some kind of consulting service who are filling out multiple forms asking for a request for pricing or submitting a question, a contact us form. The first company that gets them on the phone and is able to sell and answer those questions is usually the one that wins the business. But with web leads, someone submits a web lead, it gets either emailed to a rep, or it lives in your CRM system, or whatever it is you're using. Who knows how long it's going to take for a rep to see that lead and make a call, and you actually get that person on the phone. But we have a technology that enables you to, the second somebody fills out that form, it triggers an instant call to a sales rep and tells them that you have a lead just submitted this form. If you accept the call, we will instantly connect you to that person. So basically, it calls the sales rep. If they accept the call, the system then calls the person who submitted the form, and they can speak in an immediate conversation. It's a way to close that lead response gap from what could be hours or days to a matter of seconds. And it can be a vital technology in winning businesses if you have a business where the first responder is the one that usually gets it. So to finish the presentation, I wanted to at least share one case study of a customer of ours named BitCadet, who are a marketing agency. They specialize in digital marketing and conversion optimization. So they had a customer. They used us for a wide variety of customers, but this is one example where a customer came to them who wanted help to generate more leads from their website. So BitCadet, through SEO techniques and landing page redesign, was able to create a more optimize their website for conversions, and then they drove traffic using Google Ads and also email marketing. So in order to track the calls coming from the new web pages and able to prove their value of both the web redesign and the marketing, both email and Google, they used Ifbyphone's call tracking. And they're able to demonstrate to their client that their marketing efforts increased leads by 208% and actually increased sales by 89%. So the client was obviously thrilled. But it goes into, they're using us for more than just that. They're also using us to integrate our call tracking data with Google Analytics so they can have weekly reports sent to the client about both web and phone conversions. So the client can see, on a weekly basis how these marketing efforts are driving business. They also used call routing. So this client had agents basically getting calls on the East Coast on their cell phones during up until 5 o'clock, and then calls that came after 5 were sent to agents on the West Coast. And any call that went unanswered was automatically sent to the main office on either coast, depending on the time. So it was a way to make sure that every call got addressed and that calls were given the best chance to get to the best rep, depending on what time of day they were made. And lastly, they actually recorded every call. So they used us to automatically record every call sent to the client to prove, to prove call quality, as well as to prove which sales agents of the clients were best at responding to calls. And then they were able to use that information to tweak call routing rules so that those agents got more calls, and again, increase the value of the campaigns they were doing. So with that, I'd like to thank everybody for attending the webinar, and let you know that if you're interested at all in getting your own personal demo of Ifbyphone, you can just go to our website to request a demo or give us a call. But again, if you have any questions about the webinar, I see we've got a few that came in already. Please use the question box on your screen to submit them now, and I think we have time to just go through a couple. Let's see. Do you see any? Yeah. So the one here that I see right off the bat, you mentioned integrating call tracking data with the CRM system. How long does that take to do? Again, in the example, that was a great question, by the way. In the example we gave with Salesforce, Ifbyphone is integrated with the Salesforce App Exchange, so it's pretty seamless to get set up and actually get call tracking data into Salesforce. There's obviously the implementation of Ifbyphone and the call tracking piece as well. That would need to be taken into account, but that doesn't take a ton of time either. So it can all be done within a day, depending on the size and scope of your call tracking campaign. So, yeah, I've got another one here. Let me see if I understand it. Okay, someone wants to know what happens if someone visits my PPC landing page, but then browses to my site before calling me from a different web page. Can Ifbyphone still track that call back to the right ad? So basically, Angela, somebody clicks on an ad, whether it's to the mobile landing page or to the desktop landing page, and then browses onto the site, and something on the site triggers that conversion. Then can you still track the call back to the original ad? Yeah, another great question. So Ifbyphone uses dynamic number insertion, meaning every visitor is going to get a unique number for their visit to your site. It is not a number that's hard-coded on a landing page. So that number will follow them anywhere on their site, anywhere on your site they happen to visit. Even if they leave the landing page and go to the main home page and then browse around the rest of your website, they're going to see the same phone number that they saw when they were on your landing page, and you will also be able to track them in the same way that you would if they were to call from the landing page. And just another note here, that information often tends to be
pretty exciting for marketers to see is, you know what page they're landing on, where they're finding you, but you don't necessarily know the actual page that's driving them to call. With Ifbyphone, you will know that.
Okay, I think, let me see. So we talked about Google Analytics for a little bit and call tracking integration with that, but what are some of the reports to look at in Google Analytics for user insights? So obviously Google Analytics and also Universal Analytics, there's a rich amount of data there. We touched on a bit of it, but I know we use it ourselves. What are some of the reports or some of the data that you can use from that integration?
Yeah, I actually really like Universal Analytics for this, more so than Classic, because of the way that Universal tracks the web visitor. And again, since our call data is tied to the same tracking that Google is giving every visitor that hits your site, you're going to get a little more detail. The event flow is a pretty decent report to look at when you're trying to understand more about just your visitors on the site. You can obviously run your traffic reports, your standard audience reports, and things like that, and just add phone calls as a column. But what I like looking at is who is completing these different actions, because obviously you'll have more than just phone calls as an event being tracked inside of your analytics account. You'll have form fills, subscriptions, other things on your site, and you'll be able to see in series which order these different events are being completed. So who comes to the site from which source or medium and then calls, but then returns later and maybe downloads one of your pieces of content or signs up for one of your webinars or any other thing that you're tracking on the site. So that's a pretty cool one to look at. There are some more on our site as well. If you want to look at Google Analytics resources on our public-facing website, you can get some more insight there.
That's a good question. So I think we have time for maybe one, maybe two more. We're starting to run mobile ads with Google and heard that AdWords can track phone conversions. What is the difference between what AdWords does and what Ifbyphone's call tracking does? That's a good question.
Yeah, so with Google and what they offer as far as being able to track phone calls, it's pretty limited in the sense that you're only going to be able to track when they call from the ad. So as soon as they click and actually come to your site, either mobile or desktop, it doesn't matter, you lose the ability to use that Google forwarding number, and you're going to have really no insight into where they came from or how they found you when they actually picked up the phone and called. So Ifbyphone operates not exclusively on your website, but I think in addition to on your website. If you're going to use Ifbyphone for call tracking, you can absolutely add our numbers into Google call extensions and track those calls right within our system. But the ability to know that when someone leaves the search engine results page after clicking on the ad to get more information and then calling you is really the most important piece, I think, because people will do research and actually click into your site before calling.
All right, I think we got time for maybe one more. Let me see here. What are some of the factors that affect bidding in mobile PPC that aren't important in regular non-mobile search? So that's a good question. I think right now mobile certainly is the cheaper version for the ads. But maybe, Angela, since you're the expert, what are some of the factors that you see that differ?
Yeah, I think a lot of the times, it's some of the same factors, but the weight, or not necessarily the weight, but it's not, importance is kind of a bad word, I think, but you want to pay a lot more attention to certain things when dealing with mobile. I think accessibility to the phone number on the page that you're sending them to, and overall usability on the page is important. You can't say your mobile campaign isn't working and that you're going to stop bidding or stop paying so much money for mobile when your experience for that user isn't optimized for mobile. I think you want to make sure that you're using the right ad copy the same way you would for desktop, but again, you have to think about what that desired action is going to be. You can't say fill out a form in your ad or sign up for this in your ad. You need to be talking about the phone call. You need to be understanding that to spend money wisely on mobile, you need to basically lead them to do what they want to do, which is call.
Yeah, exactly right. So those are some great questions. I don't think we had time for every single one, but if you have any others, I'll be sending you an email later. You can just reply to that, or you can obviously go to our website or give us a call, and we'll be happy to answer any other questions you have.
Okay, thanks guys for conducting today's webinar. We really appreciate all the info. I'd also like to thank everyone for attending today. For more info on upcoming webinars, visit localsearchassociation.org/webinars. Also, we're just 6 days away from our Social Plus Mobile Show Me the Money conference in Chicago. Join us August 20th and 21st to hear from leaders like Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram, LinkedIn, YP, ESPN, and many others. Visit our website for more on that. So thanks again, everyone, and have a great day.